And it's time for Inside Oakwood with Dr. Leslie Pollard. Welcome, Dr. Leslie Pollard, for another edition. We had a little break, didn't we?
We did, we did, and may I confess that I enjoyed it. It was a
I,
great break. It
well, you
really was a
definitely
great
deserved it. We all deserve that little bit of break right there. So thank God for that. So you have a word for us before we get into this important discussion that we're going to be talking about the fall reopening protocols.
yes, I do, and it's really found, Donna, in 3 John chapter 2, where the aged apostle, the apostle John, and we believe that he was probably in his 90s at the time when he wrote these epistles, and he wrote them to the church at Ephesus. That's where he had his pastoral district. And he wrote to that church, he said, Beloved, I love the way the Bible often speaks to us in endearing terms. It said, Beloved, I wish above all things that you would prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers.
That's right.
You know, this encouragement, this mandate, Donna, began a journey for Oakwood University in 2015, well, 2013 actually, when we began our Healthy Campus initiative. It was called then Healthy Campus 2020. And what we wanted to do then was to operationalize health across the entire campus, faculty, staff, students, administrators. Healthy Campus 2020. A part of that developed rationale was also a healthy community phase. So what we wanted for ourselves, we also wanted for our neighbors who lived around us.
Mm-hmm.
So our campus, as we open up today's conversation, our campus has a very strong commitment to health and safety and all of those things that cause life to prosper and that would help us to be in health. So that little text in 3 John chapter 2, while it's just a few words in an isolated book of the New Testament, it actually forms a very sturdy substructure upon which our entire operation is resting. We rest upon the principles of health, public health, and personal health, and we have experts and representatives in each of those this morning, personal health and public health. And then we're going to make sure that as we reopen the institution, that each of these pillars, personal and public health, are in place so that this institution is the safest campus in Huntsville. I got to say that again.
Say it
That
again.
this is the safest campus in Huntsville. That if you're sending your child away to college, there is no better place to send them than Oakwood University. So let me just say one other thing. Let me say one other thing for the families who are coming. We'll talk a little bit about our policies and about those kinds of things, but we've been blessed. We've got a very active Office of Grants under the leadership of Dr. Prudence Pollard. And that team does a tremendous amount of work. They set goals for themselves and they generate grant requests. You know, in most cases, grants are funded at a 1-to-20 ratio. You send out 20, you get maybe one gets funded, right? So we know that. We know that. But we have 2 grants right now that are assisting us in making sure that this campus is safe. And we'll hear more about that. One is a testing grant that we received for $100,000. And then there's a state of Alabama vaccination grant that our team applied for and received for $250,000. So we're doing everything we can, not only spiritually, which is 3 John chapter 2, but also scientifically, right? Following CDC guidelines and making sure that the campus is safe in every way possible. And this team this morning, they got a lot of great answers. They've done a lot of great work. We're going to hear some great information, and we hope that all our parents and all our students are listening very intently. As Oakwood University has set a goal, we will be the safest and the healthiest campus in Huntsville, 2021, 2022.
Wow. And I believe that because we do have all the people here that can answer all the questions that we have. And, you know, it feels like a new day again, where we're it's not something new, but it is something new that we're reopening. But we're planning to come in and do face-to-face school. So 100%. This is interesting, and it's probably a little nerve-wracking for some people, but we're ready to go forward with it, right? So so tell us, has anything changed with the protocols as we now go face-to-face and get prepared to be face-to-face this year? Is it going to be different, or, you know?
Well, you've asked a good question. I want to turn to our panelists today, but you've asked a really good question. We've been working all summer and across the entire year. We've got some incredibly important and potent protocols Many of them remain the same, but as the science changes, we're a group of people who believe that the same God who gives the faith is the same God who gives the science. So we look at those guidelines and we apply them to our campus in ways that will make the campus very, very safe, Donna. So yes, so to answer your question is yes and no. So yes, some things have changed, and no, some things have not. And we can talk about what those look like this morning. Dr. Karen Benn Marshall has led our University Responsiveness Task Force. This task force has had a number of subcommittees who have done tremendous work. On our website is our reopening plan that can be referenced, and it has become a touchstone for many other institutions who are seeking to do that. Then we've got Dr. Earl Henry with us, who was the chair of our public health subcommittee, right? So he's with us this morning, and he can talk about some of the public health principles that are guiding the way we are protecting the campus. Our Healthy Campus Director is Dr. Lisa Dalrymple, who's with us this morning, who understands the necessity of making sure that health pervades the culture. A culture of health is created. And then we've got Assistant Vice President Adrienne Matthews, who is coming to us from Student Services, who can talk to us about what it looks like on an operational basis, what that health looks like, what those protocols look like as we enter the residence halls, as our students navigate the campus, and as we work in the spaces that make Oakwood Oakwood. So that's the team this morning, and I think they're eager and ready to go.
So, Dr. Karen Benn Marshall, can we start with you? Give us that overall view of what it's looking like and what has been put in place. And I have this one weird question, though. You know, I know that the university wrote the protocols for the pandemic. So did you have to write new ones this time, or are you just adding to what you have?
That's a great question. Well, you know, before I even talk about that, I just want to go back in time, because I remember it was really February of last year when we started this journey. And it's been really an amazing journey. And as Dr. Pollard said, and as you have said, we have really been just keeping up with what the requirements are relative to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, what the state of Alabama public health requirements are, what our governor has mandated that we do. And so we have been really trying to keep touch with that. And as Dr. Pollard indicated, Dr. Henry is a public health practitioner, and he is a faculty member, a professor at the university. And so we've had a team of individuals who are trained medical doctors, who are physicians and work for our university, who really have been looking at the science piece. But what's so important, Donna, is when we started writing this plan about a year ago, we did not know what it would look like. The president charged us with 3 different modes of operation. You know, are we going to do a hybrid operation? Are we going to do face-to-face? What is it that we're going to be completely virtual? And so, you know, last year we went into that hybrid operational stage. This year we're going full face-to-face. So our operations itself as a university has completely changed. So that's the one thing that has changed. The other part that has changed, our opening date has changed a little bit. You know, we have remained open. Our students came back to campus. Part of them virtually were, and then part of them were on campus. But now we're expecting all our students to be here. And so that means that our instructional aspect has completely changed. So now we'll have students in the classroom. So before, you know, our CDC guidelines said 6 feet apart. So now the guidelines are 3 feet apart. And so we're making sure that our classes, so if we have a class that has 50 students, we know that we have to find an instructional space that is large enough. And so instructional spaces are being monitored. Dr. Henry will talk a little bit into this terms of the specifics relative to those things that we still utilize on our campus. In terms of our reopening plan, we are putting the final touches of our reopening plan for this year, but 90, probably Dr. Pollard, I say about 80% of our protocols, Dr. Henry, they have pretty much remained the same. We're still going to expect the mask to be worn. We still will be testing our community, our faculty, staff, and students. We, as Dr. Pollard started, his first comment was, we have to keep our campus safe. And so that is what's extremely critical, because we're still doing as much virtual as we can, but at the same time, we need to see each other and figure out how to do that in a safe way. And so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Henry so that he can explain a little bit about what some of those specifics are as it relates to our public health requirements.
Okay, good morning, colleagues, and good morning to the listening and watching public.
Good morning.
I just want to share with you that Oakwood University is committed to the reduction and prevention of COVID-19 infection and protection, aiming at a herd immunity on a population, which I will explain a little later. Now, we do that by one, emphasizing and enforcing the guidelines and protocols as stipulated by the Centers for Disease Control and Alabama Department of Health. Now, CDC has given us guidelines and protocols that are specific to institutions of higher learning. We are following those guidelines and protocols very closely. Two, by encouraging everyone to be vaccinated so the campus can achieve herd immunity. Well, what is that? We want to achieve a rate of perhaps more than 80% vaccinated so we can protect those who are not. Number three, testing. There will be testing that will continue, and Dr. Dalrymple will speak to that. Contact tracing, quarantining, and isolation. Those things will continue. We have already put in place temperature and hand sanitizing equipment throughout the campus and in every building. Consistent sanitization and disinfecting of rooms and furniture. And of course, the protocols of mask wearing will continue. We are trying to protect our population on the campus because I suspect that we probably would have a rate that mirrors the national rate, which is 70%, or it might be lower. But we want to achieve that herd immunity so that those who are not vaccinated or those who have chosen not to be vaccinated can be protected. So we will be encouraging everyone to be vaccinated. And so, yes, Oakwood is ready for its population. And when I say its population, I'm referring to our employees and our students. So yes, our protocols will be the same except for a few minor changes here and there. For example, instead of 6 feet social distancing, we're going to have 3 feet social distancing. This is one of the guidelines as given to us by the Centers for Disease Control. And of course, as I said before, we'll be encouraging masking, social distancing, personal hygiene, hand hygiene, and respiratory etiquette. So yes, Oakwood University is ready for its population, employees, and students to return to campus.
Okay. So the Dr. Dalrymple, can you tell us about let's say a little bit more about the testing and vaccinations and how those will be taking place on campus?
Sure. Thank you so much and good morning. As Dr. Pollard shared, we were so fortunate enough to receive 2 grants, one for testing and one for vaccination. And so we have identified a company that we will be working with that will provide the testing, and not only the testing, but they will have access to those who want to be vaccinated as well. So although vaccination is not mandatory, as Dr. Henry stated, we are encouraging those that want to be vaccinated to do so. So right now, we have in place several dates for this company to be with us on campus to provide the testing and or vaccination, and that will be August the 2nd through August the 5th. As well as August 11th and 18th. Not only those days, but also throughout the entire semester, we will have regular scheduled testing dates. And we are working closely not only with that company, but internally on our campus with our nursing department, who is well qualified, have faculty that are well qualified to assist us with the testing that needs to be done. And so we're excited to know that we have the resources in place for our students, our employees, as well as our community, but our students and our employees are our primary focus because, again, we want to ensure that we are ready to have a safe reopening plan.
Right. So everything is going to be available for our students. If they choose to be vaccinated, they can do that while they're here. They can continue to be tested so we can keep everybody safe. So then we have to talk about living together because students will be in the dorms face to face again. How is that going to be working, Dean Matthews?
Oh, thank you, Donna. That's a great question. And so one of the things that I just want to bring to our audience's attention that last year we learned so much about how to navigate COVID-19. And we actually got some findings that we collected from our experience last year. And we noticed that the trends were going down across the campus. And so that gave us confidence to continue to use those protocols this year on our campus and within our residence halls. So when students arrive at the campus, well, prior to them arriving, they will need to email their negative COVID results or their vaccination results, their vaccination cards to ouhs@oakwood.edu so that we can begin compiling the list that will allow those individuals to enter the campus, because our campus OUPD will be checking at our gate to allow certain individuals in who have been negative COVID tested or vaccinated. Students will be allowed, as we did last fall, to have 2 guests with them who need to also be COVID tested and have a COVID vaccination documentation. We are asking all of those who return to campus that within 10 days of their return, that they have their negative COVID results sent to ouhs@oakwood.edu. That's very, very important, because we don't want anybody to be held up or turned away at the gate. We know that our Center for Health Action Center will have those testing available for those who may not be tested. So we're offering that. But in advance, all that our students and parents can do is to prepare and send us that information as soon as possible. Once they enter the residence hall, again, we'll have our temperature checks at the front, and our deans and our student leader staff will be ready to help wherever they can. Also, students who are returning need to make reservations to do their check-in ahead of time. And that information is on Abode, our housing management system, that they can make those appointments. And so we'll be staggering those move-in times for everyone. So we're looking forward with anticipation. We're also going to be having some new things for our students to enjoy as they return to campus. One of the things that we're offering is that students who financially clear by July 31st will get a 10% discount off their housing. So that will help a whole lot. We also have some other incentives that I'm sure Dr. Ben Marshall will mention in terms of our early bird funds, that early bird funding that we can give to our students who register early. But we're so excited. All of our facilities, our residential facilities, will have single rooms available. Those I'm sure are going very quickly. So you need to hurry and get your room assignments in. Our dining services have been changed to Sodexo. We're excited about that. We'll have meals to go, meals to order within our dining services and the market. And also our student codes, we are reviewing those right now, because we realize that we need to make some changes with our student code of conduct and our curfew and things like that. And so we're looking forward to introducing those new guidelines to our students in the near future.
Wow, that's a lot. And we're grateful that we have everything in place. I do have to ask one question though, just in case, and I know Oakwood University is always prepared, but what happens, and I probably already in your plan, Dr. Ben Marshall, what happens if there is an outbreak? God, forbid that happens, but it's a possibility, with the variants out there. Do we still have areas for people to go to if that happens? How is that going to be handled?
Actually, Dean Matthews can answer that, and I can piggyback off of that. So Dean Matthews, I'll let you start and then I'll finish.
Sure. So if students do come down with the virus, or students have been in contact with someone who's had the virus, we do have spaces to quarantine those students for the 14 days in terms of them not infecting other students. We know that from our findings last year that if we reach really high percentages of infection, that we will have to make some really serious decisions about whether we need to just shut down the campus or things like that. So I will defer to Dr. Ben Marshall on that. But yes, we know that, things like can get to a serious point, which we also were prayerful that it did not happen last year, and very thankful that that didn't happen yet last year. So we're trusting those protocols and relying on the responsibility of our students, faculty, and staff to abide by those protocols so that won't happen.
Yeah, and Dr. Pollard could speak to this. I think it is a lifestyle of our students and the lifestyle of the individuals who come to our campus. Our students were very respectful. We found that our student bodies, particularly our older students, were even more responsible than our incoming freshmen, and they helped our incoming freshmen to really be more responsible. And I really think that utilizing our protocols, we realized that if we stuck by those protocols that we had in place, that we were able to keep the campus safe.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, was really critical for us. We just got to, as Dr. Henry says, got to do that sanitization. We've got to keep our individual, people have to wear their masks. They've got to report if they find themselves sick. They're supposed to do a symptom tracker. So just making sure that we maintain those protocols and understanding that, okay, just because the rest of the country appears to continue as though everything is normal, we cannot do that. We have to continue to manage our campus as safe as possible. And we just can't let our heads down. I don't know, Dr. Pollard, did you want to make a comment about that?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So to answer the question, Donna, we've built in dual capacities. We've built in the capacity to close if we have to, and then of course to continue and to fight through the virus. I think those of us in administration have to keep before our populations, before our constituents, before our stakeholders, that we are still in the midst of the fight. And it's interesting, this July 4th weekend, most recently, I went to some places and you would have thought it was July 4th, 2000 versus 2021. And I'm sure others saw the same thing. But we cannot relax our vigilance. We just cannot. And so that's our role in administration. Our partners in that actually are our United Student Movement, our student leaders.
Right.
We saw a level of stepping up to responsibility that was just impressive and noteworthy, that the leaders, especially the older students, started COVID patrols and other such things to help remind younger students that, hey, remember now, we're still in this fight and we need you to mask up and do those kind of things. Right. So I think as we think about the future, as we think about opening the institution, we've built the dual capacities into our response, and our plan is to execute based upon what the numbers say. But right now we're encouraged because based on last year, we put out the information on a weekly, monthly basis, and you could see the numbers were very, 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 very low. And that was because of the collective management of the campus, not just one person, not just physical plant, not just student services, not just public safety, not just URT, University Responsiveness Task Force, but together, we were able to do this. Together, we have to manage the campus. We do.
Great. So we are all prepared. Now, you talked about early registration, and there's some perks for that. But when does the actual fall semester begin?
August 9, classes begin, August 9. New student orientation for the new and transfer students is August the 4th is when they actually move in, right, Dean Matthews?
Yes, that's correct.
Right, new student orientation, those official days are the 5th and the 6th. And classes start on Monday morning.
Wow.
And what's interesting about this academic year is we end at right before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So the students actually go home right before Thanksgiving and we don't see them again in January. So I know parents will be really glad to have them home over those 6 weeks.
Right.
And so we have adjusted our calendar. We actually adjusted it prior to COVID. And so we're actually just gonna, they get to go home and they get to stay home.
And for the parents who are listening, Dr. Ben Marshall mentioned that for our parents, we want to assure them. And tonight, of course, we have another session, a town hall with all of our parents, and they can ask all of their questions.
Yes.
These are always wonderful because you really get to feel the pulse that's on the ground around these important decisions. So I'm thankful to our team members and look forward to many tonight. coming to our town hall session. Anybody have the time? I think it's 6
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
6
Okay.
o'clock, Central Standard, Eastern Standard.
Central Standard Time.
Central Standard Time.
Yeah, I
So
think
Audrey's
Audrey's putting the
that up.
graphic up for us.
It's coming up for us, and we know it's at 6 o'clock, and it's going to be a Zoom, right? A
Yes.
Zoom meeting, town hall meeting tonight for parents and for students who are interested in asking questions and getting them answered. The ID is 256-426-1774, and the password is AA212KM. It's going to be tonight at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, and that's where you'll be able to, that's the information you need to get on that tonight. And it went well last night, right, with just students?
Yes. It
Had
really
some great
did.
questions.
Yeah, we had almost 300 students on there. And so we anticipate that we'll probably have about 300 parents, and everything is recorded and it'll be available on the university website so that they can go back and see it. And I believe the next one is going to be just a journal for either students or, you know, whoever wants to join. And that, I believe, is the 26th, I believe is that date. And I don't know, Audrey, can you put up the incentives before we go off today? Because I definitely want to make sure that individuals know about these exciting incentives. So Dean Matthews talked about the housing discount if individuals do their room and board do their housing before, I believe it was July 31st. However, we have a few more exciting for those who have not yet registered. And this is not just for new students, but this is also for our returning students. And so any new transfer and returning student who's full-time, a traditional student who registers and is 70% financially cleared by Tuesday, July 20, they will be entered in a drawing for 1 year free tuition. 1 year free tuition.
What?
1 year
What?
free tuition valued at over $18,000.
Wow.
They're
Wow.
also eligible for a round trip airline ticket anywhere, value $500. We are giving away 2 of those. We have free room and board for 1 year, valued at over $12,000. They're also eligible for Apple AirPods. We're giving away 2 of those. And every single student who is financially cleared by this date will automatically receive a limited edition OU gear valued at $50. So everybody's going to win something if they're cleared by July 20th. So you just got to get it in, and we are excited.
Man, makes
Really
me want to get back. Let me go back to school and get that.
A special thank you to Dr. Pollard for being willing to allow us to do these incentives.
Sure, absolutely.
We're excited.
That means that God is blessing Oakwood University to be able to offer those incentives, Dr. Pollard. That's amazing.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. And we are very grateful. And again, I want to encourage every student, every potential student, take advantage of this moment. You never know. You might come out of this with 0 tuition or a whole semester's tuition being paid. And that would be a tremendous asset to families. We also have other programs that we're doing that encourage families that are trying to lower the costs. And we can talk about those on another program, maybe next week. But we've got a number of ways that families can afford education. I was speaking for a group recently, Donna, on a Christian Education Day, actually, during the summer. It was a Zoom event, and they were in Georgia. And I made a statement, and I didn't know, sometimes when you're speaking, you don't know the impact of what is said.
Right.
But the Spirit knows. And I made a statement. I said to the congregation, I said, when you are thinking about a Seventh-day Adventist Christian education, finances are never the issue. And of course, people say, oh, what in the world? Yeah. I said, really, finances are not the issue. Faith is the issue. The waters of the Jordan will part, but you first must put your foot in them. I can point to student, chapter and verse, even in my own experience, I can point to students and families who did not have the resources evidently visible, they were not evident. But as they put their foot in the water, God began to send resources to help them navigate faith-based education. And one family heard that. And the pastor sent me a note. He said, this person said that statement, led them to put their
Mm.
child into Christian education. They had been
Wow.
wrestling. It always begins in faith. And of course, I've told my story of a mother who was a janitor with 500 $1 bills.
Mm.
And God said, son, if I had more, I would give more, but God will give you the rest.
Mm, mm, mm.
I'm saying to parents today, if you are in the valley of indecision because of finances, just know that I'm a living witness that God gives the rest. But you must first put your foot in the water. Call Oakwood today, and we will work with you to get your child into Christian Seventh-day Adventist education.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pollard. This has been a great Inside Oakwood with Dr. Pollard and his special guest talking about the fall reopening of Oakwood University. We'll see you again for another edition on next Thursday, July 15th at 8:30, same time, same place, right here on WJOU.